happen.
experts for wealth management, tax, accounting, and payroll. We change lives and inspire true wealth, one person, one family, one business at a time. Shaw & Associates is a wealth management investment firm that specializes in taxes, serving as a fiduciary, putting your interests first. You can find more information or schedule an appointment by calling 530-674-1150 or on the web at shawassociatesinc.com. Shaw & Associates is proud to support community radio.
And we're grateful for Mr. Shaw, and also we're grateful that he sponsors these morning interviews. So he's not here today. So he sent this other dude in. I don't. My guest this morning for the 8 o'clock interview is Nicholas. Is it really Nicholas?
Yeah.
It is Nicholas. But he said we can call him Nick. So Nick Valencia. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, right? So I got to find out first. Where were you born and raised, Nick?
So I was born in Yuba City back when Fremont was the hospital.
Wow.
And that was 1988, just to date myself. And I was raised here, Sutter County, went to Terra Buena, Yuba City High School.
A honker.
I was a honker, class of 06. Then I went to Yuba College. I wanted to save money, so tried to be financially responsible.
Smart.
And after that, I got my accounting degree at Sac State. And yeah, that's my education here.
So I have to ask you, Nick, at what point did you decide I want to get into I got a degree in business, and I'm going to tell you a story in a minute. What made you want to get into accounting?
Well, so my plan was not to go into accounting. So when I first went to school, I actually was going to be a psychology major. I thought that was incredibly fun. I loved the classes. Then I went to a graduation and saw 400 people graduating, and I thought to myself, where's the job market?
Yeah.
So I actually took a break, and I went to work for my parents' small business. They had a landscaping company that they'd ran for decades here in the area, and while I was there, I was kind of trying to figure out, like, what do I want to do, And during that time, I thought to myself, a business degree would be great. My parents are small business owners. Maybe someday that might be some path I want to go down. And one of the first requirements is take an accounting class. And so one of my first teachers actually was Nate Black, our auditor controller. So he was my accounting 1 teacher when I went back to school to do business. And I loved the class. I loved accounting. Then I had Christopher Myers the next year, amazing accounting professor. And so both those teachers, both those classes, I fell in love with accounting. And so at that point, I was like, okay, I'm not business, I'm accounting. And that was just how that took off from there.
Yeah, I was a business major as well, and I remember the first accounting class, the guy came in and he wrote on the board, assets minus liabilities equals owner equity. And I was like, what the heck is all that? Right? Like, what does that mean, right? And then he proceeded to he didn't stop writing on the board the whole hour. This went on for a week. And my wife and I were in the class together. We were lost. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, he just kept going. And so he comes in, and he was the kind of guy that once the class started, he shut that door and you couldn't get in. You were done. So we're sitting in there, and he comes in. He sits down in the chair, puts his feet up on the desk, and he goes, now that we got rid of the riffraff. And there was like 10 of us left in the class, right? Because because people were standing in there auditing the class originally. And I was like, God, I hope we did the right thing. It turned out great guy. So he took me down to Sacramento. He said, listen, you're really good at this. He said, I'll take you to the largest accounting business. So we went down, I don't remember the name of the business. Nick, I looked in there, they're all sitting in cubicles, right? All dressed the same, sack lunches. Crazy, right? And I told him, I appreciate you, but I got to be outside. That's going to work for me. So that's why I ask you why accounting, because it really is. It's everything's on that computer in front of you. It's constant, So, well, that's really good. I'm glad that you stuck with it.
Yeah, no, I loved it. So, I mean, I actually became an accounting tutor for Yuba College, too. So after the first class, Nate recommended me to be a tutor because they needed tutors for it. And I loved it. Yeah, I loved the numbers. I loved just the whole process of it.
I know some people wouldn't understand. So the part I liked about accounting is, to me, it's like business to me is a live entity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just, people say, well, it's just business. Oh, no, it's living, breathing. And anybody that's owned a small business knows that, right? It's, if your income is less than your outgo, your upkeep is your downfall, right? And so it's that live thing. And when I was doing accounting, to get to see on paper how you can, it's like, it'd be like, if you don't have a simple understanding of accounting, it's like driving your car without a gas gauge and hoping that you don't run out of gas.
Yeah.
Should I fill up today or not? And so it was very valuable to me.
Yeah.
But I still don't want to do it. You want to do it.
I want to do. I love it. Yeah.
So how did you end up you're with the county?
Yep.
Right. So how did you end up with that job?
Well, so I actually started at the state. So I was at the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank. It's a big mouthful.
Yeah.
We call it iBank for short, but no one knows what that is. And they do. They take out bonds. They do financing for local governments and agencies when they might not be big enough to do their own bonds. But the portion I was in was the Small Business Finance Center. And so they do loan guarantees for small businesses and for people who might not qualify. And I love that. So my plan wasn't to go into government. I was going to go to the Big Four, become a big CPA somewhere. When I did that, though, I really loved that work. I had a great manager, and she gave me great career advice and guidance. And so being in that Small Business Finance Center, I kind of got to see the impact in the community. So we had loan guarantees for businesses in downtown Sacramento. Oh, that Pyology, they got a loan guarantee from us. And so you could go down the street and see the impact. And so I really liked that. And then from there, I worked at DTSC, and then eventually became a financial auditor at the state auditor's office. And I was able to audit major agencies like the Franchise Tax Board and EDD and
that must have been
Commission.
A thrill.
I loved it. So they sent me there a couple weeks to Franchise Tax Board after I started, and I'm new. I'm nervous going in.
Yeah.
And they sent me by myself. They felt comfortable enough with that, and surprisingly, the people on the other side, I think, were more nervous than I was because there's a state auditor.
It's an auditor coming. Right? That's it.
But
quick, hide the books.
We changed our procedures that year too, though, because we were doing random pulls of taxes, and we were like, well, how useful is this information? If I pull, John Smith's tax return and he only has a $100 tax return, how big is that? Maybe we need to do something more judgmental. And so we pulled the top 100 personal income taxpayers in the state to see if they're material. And so that was a big change we did. We did the same thing on the corporate side, and surprise, surprise, they're all banks on the corporate side. But we made a lot of changes. We got a lot of good information out of that. But there was some, really surprising stuff there, such as the materiality for the state. I mean, it's incredibly high. Most people wouldn't know it, but when I was there, it was about $1.5 billion with a B. And that meant that if there's an agency in the general fund that was at $1.4 billion, they didn't even get looked at. So that shocked me.
Because you would think as a state auditor that there wouldn't be anything out of the reach of that, because everything needs to get audited. It's not like as an auditor you immediately assume everybody's corrupt.
Yeah.
But after you find it a bit, it's like being a police officer. They're not all criminals, but after a while you go, what?
Yeah.
Right.
But after a few years being there, my daughter was born. She's going to be 6 this year.
Wow.
During COVID in, September of 2020. So after 9 months, she ended up going into daycare. And so that would have been in 2021. And at that point, I'm commuting to Sacramento. I was leaving before 6 in the morning before she woke up. I was
Yep.
getting back at 6:30. I was taking the commuter bus because it's more cost effective. I could read on the way there, but it took more time. So I was seeing her half an hour a day, 5 days a week. And so I started thinking, well, I really liked working at iBank because I could have that public impact. I could see it on the street. Maybe I should look closer to home at our government. Maybe I can still do something where I'm having an impact, but maybe in the local community where I live. Because I still lived in Yuba City that whole time. And so I started looking. I actually interviewed at the clerk recorder's office for one of their election assistant positions over there. And Donna very kindly shared my resume with Nate, the auditor, because he was also looking for positions. But I didn't know he was at that time. And all my experience is accounting, auditing. She's like, you'd be really great over there. So I got.
So she could see. Got it. Got it. That makes sense because we think about that when we're talking to people, and that's very kind to Donna because honestly, you get when you're working in government or a corporation, anything. If you find somebody who knows going to help somebody else, that's super. Recommend them. You know.
No, I really appreciated that. I probably wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Donna sharing, my resume with Nate, and then giving that suggestion. So I applied over at Nate's office. I became an accountant over there, and was in the process of applying for his assistant position actually, but Steve Hara had retired in I think March of 2021. And his assistant was the acting treasurer tax collector, but she lived in Yuba County over here, and she didn't want to get into the politics of it all and go through the run, and she didn't want to move to Sutter. And at that point, while about 4 years ago, I learned about that it was open. Nobody's in the office going for it.
No, this is for the assistant position.
Well, this is for the treasurer position. So while I was going for the assistant, I learned about how the treasurer tax collector, well, there is no treasurer tax collector right now. There's an acting one, but so I was like, well, I've been in the auditor's office. The auditor has one side of the treasury. All the money that gets sent through treasury comes from the auditor. They have to approve that. And then for the taxes, the tax bills are all created in the auditor's office. They take the assessed values from the assessor, they apply all the rates, create the bills, and then the tax collector is the one who sends them out.
Nick, I liked you up to this point.
The taxes.
You know what? On one side, it's like you had to be thinking, I'm going to put in for this job, but the minute I tell people I'm a tax collector, there goes the Christmas card list. Right?
No, and my wife teased me about that when I ran for it. She's like, you know what the Bible says about tax collectors, right? And I'm
exactly. It even adds to it, sinners and tax collectors. It's like, wow, you got your own special group, right? However, Matthew made it in, so there's hope for you.
There's hope for me.
So you were actually at Sutter County.
I was at Sutter County.
And so when that position opened, is that because I'm not familiar with how this all works, was that position one where you get, like right now, you're going to be elected into?
Yes.
Is our treasurer tax collector an elected position?
Yes.
So you could put in for it, but it's not like anybody in the office goes, oh, you're next. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where the election had just opened up, and nobody was running yet. And so I talked to my wife because I don't make big decisions by myself. And
smart man, takes two to make those decisions.
And I knew it would impact her if I'm out there running. If I have a challenger 4 years ago, it's a big impact on her. So I talked to her to see are you comfortable with this, and she was supportive. And then the next person that I'm talking to is the auditor controller, because if he's not going to be supportive at that time, are you okay? Because I'm in his office. He needs me to do stuff there. But he was supportive. And
now, that was Nate Black.
Nate Black.
Got it. Okay.
And so at that point, I go, I'm going to pull my papers, and I went to the elections office. I got all the paperwork. I went out and get all the signatures.
Saw Donna.
I saw Donna again.
Thanked her for the job.
And I ran at that point, and I waited. Is somebody going to run against me? And that first time, nobody actually ended up running against me. So I went to the election unopposed in a completely open race.
That must have been wild. Because you had probably expected, oh my gosh. However, you have somebody running against you this time.
I do.
So you have been in how long?
So I've been in for 4 years now.
Got it.
Almost 4 at least. But it's been really great. We've had great success in the office. It's running really smoothly. We don't have, a lot of turnover in there. We've had a retirement, but there's nothing really going on in the office that's going wrong. Everything's actually running really smoothly. We've had great investment returns. So at this point, as of the last quarter, we're up to $45 million in investment returns. And to kind of add some qualifiers on that, if you compared that to before I came in the office, that's more than the 13 years combined before I got in the office. There's $42 million in the 13 years before I got in the office. And part of that comes from interest rates went up after COVID, right? We've all seen that impact. Yeah. And that has helped lift up our investments. But we also, when I came in the office, had really large unrealized losses. That from investments that were made before I came in office, we ended up with $28 million in unrealized losses.
Now, explain that to me. What does unrealized loss mean?
So it's kind of like a book loss. It's a loss that we haven't actually taken. So what that means is that, if I invested $1 million at 0.5%, which some of these investments were, then the interest rate goes up to 2%.
Did you get a free toaster when you invented it?
Right.
I was like, less than 1%?
We had, when I came in the office...
I mean, I'm smart enough, Nick, to know that's bad juju right there.
It wasn't, unfortunately, about 70% of our investment portfolio in those long-term investments was less than 1% when I came in the office. When COVID happened, the rates dropped to about 0. Before that, there were 3s, there were in the 2s. It wasn't zeroed out. So it was pretty decent. But most of those investments that were made pre-COVID got called. So they were all callable. As soon as the rates dropped, those people that we had investments with called those notes, and then they were ended up reinvested again at near 0%, 3.3. There was I think a 0.22%, 0.5, and I don't think those are the worst. They are what they were at the time. But the only thing that was kind of unfortunate about it is most of them were locked in for 5 years. So you made a 5-year investment at 0.22%. I wouldn't have done that, but.
Okay, so let me just backtrack because I want to understand.
To then realized, right?
Because I think we all know what a tax collector is. So we're going to ignore that for a minute, though, Nick. So are you telling me that the treasurer, the job of treasurer, handles the investments for the county? So you have to find out what's available, if I'm hearing you right, and then the money that the county has that they can use for investments, that's your fish to fry?
So it's not just the county's money, actually. It's the county's and all of the school districts' money and special districts that are in our area. So, for example, the levee district, the cemetery district.
Oh, my gosh.
The mosquito district, any of the fire districts in our area. It's all of that money. It's a big investment pool that we have.
I'm glad you got that job. I'd be sitting in the park breaking up little sticks under a tree going, I don't know what to do.
Well, and to your point, though, about talking about Treasury versus the tax collector, it's the vast majority of the job, I would say. I probably spend 10 to 15% of my time on tax collection because most of that is more automated. If you have a mortgage, they send in a payment for you.
Yes.
And most people in the county have an escrow account that sends their payment for them. And there's only 2 escrow accounts companies that send us money. and one of them sends the vast majority of all those payments. It comes in a single file with a huge lump sum payment.
That's easy. Yeah.
It's real easy.
Yeah.
It's real fast. It's very automated. So there's not a lot of time spent on that.
General entry.
Yeah. What I spend time on in taxes is really if something goes wrong. So if you have some sort of hardship, and maybe somebody has cancer in the family, and you're dealing with that, you're hospitalized, and you weren't able to make your payment on time. We can give some grace with that, where we don't want to make your hardship worse.
So
by
let me
penalizing
make sure
you.
I'm hearing you. So the normal property tax, because I think people need to hear this. If you've had extenuating circumstances, I had cancer twice. Now, I mean, we still made our payment because it just made through the mortgage payment. But they actually can contact the tax collector's office and explain the circumstances, and you guys can sometimes work that through.
So it's only for, unfortunately, I can't do anything about the actual tax itself. So if you had, $2,000 in tax, I can't do anything for that. But if you were late because of it, or something went wrong and you have a penalty now, or there's a fee on it, that's where I can help people.
Got it.
So if something got missed because of what's going on, we can help with that.
I think that's awesome because a lot of times we don't know that could be substantial, penalties and whatever. So, so now we're going to backtrack to
unrealized.
Unrealized. So you inherited some unrealized. Okay.
So what that is, if for example I had $1 million investment, right, and it's at 0.5%.
If I had $1 million, I wouldn't invest it. I'd be in the Caribbean. Sorry, Nick.
But if the rate today was 2%, and I'm trying to sell that investment today, the fair market value of that investment's not going to be $1 million anymore, because someone could take their $1 million and get 2% on it. So if I'm trying to sell this, the fair market value doesn't match what we paid on the books for it. And so that's the unrealized loss. And that's kind of what happened, is that, let's say there's a 5-year investment at 0.5%, and right now the interest rates are 2 or 3%. Now it's only worth $700,000 if I sold it. Now, we only realize that loss if we actually go out and have to sell it. And
so it's kind of like saying, this is what my assets really are.
Yeah. Because
that unrealized is a liability.
In a worst case scenario, if I had to sell this, we would have less money. But we never got to that point where we had to sell anything. And to me, if I had taken that and let's say I sold that at $28 million, that's a big gamble. I'm not a gambling man. I'm not going to gamble that I'm going to take that $28 million loss.
So I've never seen you at the Hard Rock. Is your wife listening? He never goes to the Hard Rock.
To me,
except to eat.
It's taxpayer money, and you could try to sell it and then invest it at the higher rates, but they're going to give you fair market value based on what the rates are today. So it's very little chance that you're going to get more, and if you mess it up, you could lose millions.
So let me ask you this then. So you got that $1 million. You go through the 5 years. Now, is that a break-even point, and you can do something else with that?
Yeah.
So how many of those unrealized debts did you inherit that now you're coming towards the end of 4 years? Are we walking out of that?
We are. So there's that, of that $28 million that was at the peak, by the end of my first year, it was down to $23 million. We had another $10 million year-over-year gain, nearly $10 million the following year, and so it dropped to about 13, 14 in, I think, 2024. Then it dropped another $10 million to about $4 million in 2025. And then now we're close to 2 million or so. So most of them have fallen off at this point. They've matured, and we rolled them into higher earning investments. And when they mature, you don't get that fair market value it was at the loss. You get the par value, which is what's the notes amount.
Yep. Yeah, I get you on that. Okay, so man, I like this. So all right, if I'm going to just use that $1 million marker that you invented there. So it's like accounting people invent things. It's like so whatever monies that come in now. because our economy is changing, how much do you have to, regardless of the politics, I could give a rip about that, right? That's why sometimes when I talk to Dave Shaw, I'm like, Dave, okay, so this is what is in the media, but what's really going on in the financial state. So as I look at the county right now and the job that you're doing, do you feel are you feeling good about where the national and state economies are in terms of your ability to invest?
Yeah.
Are you still feeling like, I'm going to do the best I can, but this is not where I'd like it to be?
Well, so we peaked in our interest rates, I think, back in 2024. So they've been slowly declining. Every time they drop the Fed rate, they drop it 0.25%.
Yeah.
That lowers what we can get in investments. So when they start predicting that,
But it helps me.
It helps us. It's kind of this inverse situation. When rates are bad for us, they're better for the county for investment. And then sometimes turmoil can also make things better. Sometimes it makes it worse. Turmoil like COVID made it worse.
Yeah.
When the war in Iran, this battle that's going on over there, the rates actually ticked back up when that happened. So we started getting more returns. And so the way I see it is, when we're at a high point like we are now, we try to lock in for 5 years. We try to get this money so that way it will last at a higher rate.
That was going to be my next question. As you look down, do you look for investments that you're going to go, I'm doing 5 years on that? Is it better to look at long term than it is short term?
It depends. So,
of course it does.
We had a really crazy time after COVID where the yield curve was inverted. So what that means is that short-term money is actually giving a higher return than long-term money. So it was actually better to be shorter on your duration when over the last few years, because it was giving a higher return. And so that's because everyone expected that, this is going to stop and it's going to drop, and so we don't want you to lock in 5 years at 5.5%, 6%, but we'll give you 6% for your short cash today. So we actually really shortened our duration during that period of time, and now I think we're heading back towards a more normal distribution. We're expecting it's going to become more normal at this point, and so we're locking in those higher rates on those long-term investments, so that way as the rates continue to fall, we'll continue to earn better returns. And then if we end up in a situation like during COVID where it zeroes out, my plan is to not lock in for 5 years, right? If we could get 0.2% for a 2-year investment versus 0.22 for a 5-year, I'll take that 2 year. Just in case something changes, we can get out of it sooner and we don't have those same unrealized losses.
So, I don't want to knock Dave Shaw. I like Dave. But I'm thinking that if I have an investment, I'm going to you. Dave's probably listening. Dave will go, what? Did you not see it's my advertisement behind him? Yeah, I saw that, Dave, but the man makes sense. So this, all right, I want to go into your campaign. And thanks for taking the time, because really, I think I want people to understand when they're going out to vote, I want them to understand what they're voting for. And then who. First, what are you voting for, right? What is the treasurer tax collector? And then why, and that's where I'm going with you now, Nick, why would I want to vote for Nick, right? What would make me go? In other words, if you could talk to all the people that are voting right now, what is it that you want them to know about what you do?
Well, I mean, for me, why I hope that people will vote for me is I want to continue doing the good stuff we've already been doing in office. So on top of the returns that we've had, we've also been under budget every year. We've come in at this point in their 3 finished years, 1.2 million under budget. And we're also implementing new programs for taxpayers. So at this point, by July 1st, we are going to have, it's called Easy Smart Pay. That's something that's available right now in Yuba County. But what that lets people do, if they have no impound account and they have big lump sum payments in December and April that they have to make for their taxes, Easy Smart Pay lets people do monthly payments again, like an impound account. And then Easy Smart Pay will give us the money just like an impound account does. So that's something that we're really hoping will help people in the community, especially elderly people who paid off their houses, might be on a fixed income, might find it hard to save up for those big lump sum payments, or they might forget the due date. If it comes around, is it April 10th? Is it April 15th? People confuse those. And so that, for me, it's, my goal is to help the community. I'm part of it. I'm raising my family here. My kids are here. I have 3 kids. 5.
What?
Yep. I have a daughter. She's 5. Her name's Violet. I have a son who just turned 3 named Jack. And I have a second son who's going to be 2 in June. His name's Alex. And, they're amazing kids.
You're glad you're back here, aren't you? Although, I don't know, a bunch of little ones. I had Mother Goose preschool. Might be days you're like, I'm glad I'm at work.
Well, the daycare, those costs get really high when you think about it.
Yep, absolutely.
At one point, we were almost $3,000 when all 3 kids were in daycare at one time. But now our daughter's in school. That helped save. And my mother-in-law is retired, and so that's a lot of help.
Yep.
But no, I mean, for me, it's just I really want to help the community. I love to serve our community. I want to keep doing that, and I hope people will see the good that I've done in office in terms of our returns and our investment strategies. And then on budget savings, I run it just like my own household. We don't buy something if we don't need it. We don't replace something if it still works. I'm very conscious of the taxpayer money because we've been entrusted with that. And I think, especially when sometimes the county is hurting for money, we don't want to look wasteful either. We want to show that we're saving money everywhere we can.
It's a big deal. I just talked to, I think it was Marysville, they had the person come in and they were talking about how they didn't have a reserve. I might have this wrong. I think it was Marysville, but how they have been able to build that reserve and how important that is. So does Sutter County have that? Do they have a reserve? How does that work? How does a reserve work?
They set aside money. So they actually, there's money that they've set aside, but there's also, so that's for, if there's an emergency, right? But then there's also money that they put into a pension stabilization fund because we have, a large pension liability that we need to pay off from CalPERS. And so every year the county's setting aside money into this to build that up, to keep getting investment returns on it, specifically to pay that down faster. And I think those are really wise things to do, that we set aside this money for that and we're not spending it on something else while this liability grows. I think that's a really great decision that they made. That's
such a huge issue. I had gone to a debt seminar that I thought was really interesting. It cost $1. It was $1 to go, right? And the guy but he had a thing called a detonator. I don't know if you ever heard of it, so we have a tendency to say, I want to pay this large debt off. But he was like, no, pay this little one off and then keep building that money till pretty soon you can pay everything off. And I, it was like the light went on. That just made sense because you think, oh my gosh, I got this big one. But even if you're just paying the interest on the big one, while you're getting these, it gives you actually more money. So I say that because if the county is able to eventually pay off that debt, right, the pension one, then would that mean it'd be like getting a raise? In other words, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Nick, would that be a huge input for the county?
I think the goal would be, now, I mean, it is a very large pension liability. I don't know if you've seen
I don't know anything about it, other than you'll hear people say, oh, we got the pension.
Yeah. And it's an issue, I think, for everyone who's in CalPERS. But, being proactive is helpful. And when that is paid off, right now we're putting, I believe, $1 million every budget year into this fund. So I mean, if we get to a point where that's paid off and we don't have to do that, well, $1 million is
There
nothing.
you go. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. All right, I ran long. See how you are? It's all your fault, Nick. The owner of this station's going to call me. Oh, wait, that would be me. All right, so you do want the people that are voting, you want them to understand who you are, why you do what you do, and because you've been doing it experientially. Do you feel that what you've already been able to do really is your record and desire?
Yeah.
Well, I should have been your campaign manager, Nick. I caught it. I actually heard you.
And that's what for me, it's just getting the word out, right? Because it's not the most visible position. When things are working, you don't usually notice what's going on. So we're not having all these issues where it's like, oh, look at them. Why is all this going on over in that office? We're very quiet. We get our jobs done, and we work hard.
One last question, because I'm way late. So how many people work in your actual office, right? Because you said you went to work there as an accountant.
Yeah.
So how many people work there, and are there openings currently?
Yeah. So right now there are 9 people, including myself, in the office, and we have one opening that is in the process of being recruited at the moment. So that we have, I think, 12 candidates to look at.
Oh, that's cool.
But
Do you get any say in that?
Oh, yeah. So once everyone does their the process of application, and then I think they had a test, then we get the 12, then we'll interview them. But no, it's a small office. Everyone does a lot of work in there because we're a small office. We keep it really lean. And so for myself, for example, besides being the department head, I'm essentially the chief investment officer for the county because I'm the only one who makes the investments. I review all the investments, and then I move the money when it's time to go buy that investment.
Sean, he's taking your job. Watch out, Dave.
But everyone has a role, and so 6 of my staff are more frontline. They help with people at the counter, and they help. I have a supervisor who oversees the front counter for taxes because most people come in. That's who they're going to see as the counter. And then I have a banker in the office, and so she helps reviewing daily bank transactions that happen. She's she's amazing. All of my staff are amazing. They're all wonderful. We have a lot of people who have been there for years. My assistant, who became the acting when the previous treasurer left, has been there 23 years.
Wow.
Number 3 in the office has been there 23 years. I have another person in the office who's been there, I think, 21 years. I mean, it's tons of longevity, tons of experience, and luckily they've been happy enough to stick around through my term. I didn't scare anyone away.
Yeah, you're exchanging Christmas cards at this point. You're good, right?
But
that's really good.
Yeah,
Nick, that's really good.
I couldn't do it without him.
So I only have one question left.
Yeah.
Right? Where's Nate Black?
I assume he's working on something right now.
It's because he did that for years, right?
Did what?
He wasn't Nate the treasurer?
No. So he's the auditor. Controller.
Okay. All right. Oh, so he comes and audits you.
He's on. Yeah. So he's the other side of the coin. We're the side that all the money comes in and it goes out of us, and then he's the one accepting all the deposits or initiating all the transactions out and auditing the county.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Nate, but I'm not bringing you on the air. No, just kidding. All right. Nick, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate Dave Shaw allowing his spot to be taken by you. And, man, we're looking forward to it. So here's an opportunity. How many people are in this?
In this race?
Yeah.
Just 2.
Oh, just 2.
Just
okay.
2.
All right.
Done June 2nd.
Oh, that's right. So I interviewed the other person, so they've had a chance to hear both. All right. Thanks again for being on.
Thank you.
This community interview is made possible by Shaw and Associates.
I'm Dave Shaw, President and CEO of Shaw & Associates. For over 70 years, Shaw & Associates has been your trusted experts for